Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 5 grand finals in StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss that was played last Monday, spawning right here on the left side of Whispers of Gold, joined by the little polar bear on the main command center. You know him, you love him, he's the world champion of StarCraft 2. And he goes by the name of Clem. His opponent, all the way on the right side of the map, playing with the blue Protoss pieces, widely regarded as the #1 Protoss player on the planet. We're looking at HerO's main Nexus. A best of 5 between absolute fan favorites. These guys, they really push each other to the limit, so I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. This is from a LowkoTV Monday weekly. Yes, I believe that's what the tournament is called. The LowkoTV Mondays. Easily one of the best tournaments right now if you want to sign up actually for any games. I believe it is an open sign-up, so you can go ahead and participate in it yourself as well if you want to, you know, get smacked by a pro gamer in the very first round. It is technically something you can go ahead and do right now. Always very fun. It sort of replaced the ESL Weekly. So the ESL Weekly is no longer, well, no longer a thing, sadly. Maybe at some point it'll come back. We don't really have any news as far as that goes, but there have been a bunch of community members that have started up similar events as well. And this is actually one of the weeklies that I've been supporting myself ever since the very beginning, because I think weekly tournaments are very important for the health of the game. Alrighty, so far, ooh, we're going for a Zealot. A blind Zealot already? Are we going to cancel that? I'm assuming we're going to cancel it and build a Nexus? Yeah, it should be. We'll keep an eye out on it. Maybe he wants to, like, send it across. I've seen HerO go for quite a few Sentry first builds as of late. Yeah, so we canceled the Zealot, built the Nexus on the low ground, and then I'm assuming we're gonna go for a Sentry as soon as the Cyber Core is done. Yeah. I like his build a lot. I think it's very strong, but also a little bit risky, because there's a lot of aggressive pushes that Terran can go for that make this extremely, well, difficult to defend, right? Because you have a Sentry, and Sentries technically deal damage, but realistically, they tickle you to death. There's going to be a Reaper coming in right now, luckily here for that Sentry. The Reaper also doesn't deal that much damage, but one of the big advantages, of course, here early on is that you can indeed go... Ooh, that Probe, actually, or that SCV, rather, joining in. Probe also goes down, so an eye for now. But obviously, one of the nice advantages is you get that hallucinated Phoenix to scout exactly what it is that the opponent is going for. Okay. Now, HerO does this sort of thing a lot now, where he goes Sentry first into Stalker, and then eventually a Twilight Council. Oh, we're gonna go Stargate this time around. Okay. So we'll be following this up with some more aggression. And then if he sees, hey, wait a second, the Terran is being quite aggressive, in the sense that they're not really, well, building a whole lot of units, I'll go ahead and test the waters for just a second. And this is actually kind of a powerful early game. You go Sentry into double Stalker, maybe even triple Stalker, send everything across the map, and you start dancing. This is one of those pushes that's actually quite tricky to hold if Terran is not paying very close attention. Now, Clem is already going into double Marine production. Okay. Well, that's one way to get high ground vision. He's going into double Marine production together with a Cyclone right now. I always love the hallucinated Colossus. So you can hallucinate any unit. Most of the time, it's the Sentry, but in this instance, it's actually much better to go for the hallucinated Colossus. Obviously, it doesn't deal damage, but you can see here that it's still difficult when the Stalkers are hiding underneath. Ooh, nice shot right there with the Cyclone. It's still difficult for the Terran player to click on the right target, where if there's like a tiny little Phoenix flying above the ground, well, as you may have already guessed, it is much easier for the Terran to hit the Stalker that they actually want to be dealing damage to, and it also makes it, well, a lot less likely that it's going to derp forward. We've never really seen hallucinated Colossi until maybe a couple weeks ago. It was just never a thing that was ever done, but it's very nice to see. Plus, it looks cool. I mean, I know that the pro gamers don't care, but personally, I think, yeah, seeing a Colossus at like minute 3 is pretty sick. All right, now this is a real Oracle. Problem, of course, with the real Oracle in this instance is that it's gonna show up quite late. We don't really have any sort of, like, Phoenix follow-ups. We don't really have anything else. Oh, my lord. Did he get that stuck? No way, HerO. HerO, did you... Sorry, I have to... We're 4 minutes and 50 seconds in. Has that been there? Oh, no. Hero, how can you be... Oh... How can you be simultaneously the highest ranked Protoss player in the world, but then also... So while he was dancing on the other side, he managed to get one of the Stalkers stuck because he reset the rally point of the gateway. Ay. Okay, let me go back to 4 minutes and 50 seconds. This is something that Hero does consistently, where you have like 4 units, man, in the early game. You really Hero can be simultaneously the greatest Protoss player on the planet and also, well, have glimpses of Diamond League. Yeah. If you covered up the usernames here and you made me guess, Lowko, is this max specs? This would never be max specs. I mean, the micro could maybe be max specs, but max specs is not. Like, well, he will eventually get a prism out or blink, I suppose. So eventually, I guess that Stalker will be freed. But this can actually be a big problem because Hero effectively now took that third Nexus off of the back of, well, 2 Stalkers, I think, and then a Sentry. And then an Oracle that was just about to pop out, right? So that you have a significant percentage of your army occupied defending a ramp. I guess it's not entirely useless, but it's mostly useless. It happens sometimes. It really does, but I don't think it is supposed to happen because you won't be finding Mr. Clem make similar mistakes at this level of StarCraft 2. Like, there's just a little bit of autopiloting. That's one of the downsides of making little wall-ups like that. Anyway, this has been the world's most expensive Oracle here. It's just putting down a couple stasis wards. It really wants to jump into a mineral line, but, well, so far, Clem has had all of his bases covered. Yeah. This is actually a little unnecessary. You wanted to get a scout off, I guess. Oh! Clem with the scan. Get one more missile onto that Oracle, but the Oracle survives with 4 HP. Stasis Ward here is now triggered, and I guess that Oracle hasn't been entirely pointless. Keep in mind that this Oracle is also the only thing that has actually been built out of the Stargate. So that Oracle is carrying a lot of minerals and gas with it, and now it's gonna swoop in and actually get some kills. Okay. I thought that Oracle was going to achieve nothing, but ultimately it has slowed down the attack, forced the scan, killed a couple SCVs, and then still escaped with its life. Charge in the meantime is of course done. Hero's now going to go into blink, so maybe this bad boy will eventually... Look at him, all army hotkey. You can see how often he... Anyways. He loves the all army hotkey. It's a real problem for Hero. He will eventually be able to free that Stalker, so that is worth something, but I don't think that Hero can really commit to any sort of push here. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Most of the time when you play this sort of style, you just want to survive. Obviously, Terran is gonna try and take this third command center on over to a mineral line very soon. Maybe morph it into an orbital command first. Clem hitting a little bit of a supply block, but he can drop one of those depots out of the high heavens at the cost of a scan or a mule. Pretty good deal. This is still going to be a scary Terran attack, though, and Clem has decided, you know what, you're being a little bit too greedy for my liking. I'm just going to go ahead and pull some of the boys as well. This is a substantial amount of Clem's economy that he's bringing across right now, but a bit of an awkward amount, too, because he just built a third command center. If he wanted to go for an all-in, woo, maybe he could have committed to it harder, but Clem is saying, yo, you're built. It's kind of whack. I don't really like it. Maybe you can slow me down with some force fields, but this is going to be an extremely difficult push to deal with. Probes are going to evacuate. We do have a single disruptor just about to pop out, but generally speaking, you don't go for an Oracle like that. You don't go for a single Oracle and then, well, somehow still have all of your other tech as well. That Oracle has slowed down the tech advancement for Hero a lot, and Clem is thinking about it, and he realized, wait a second, I don't think you're gonna have any sort of Colossi out. Apparently we have one disruptor, but one disruptor is pretty easy to dodge. He saw the probes escape as well to the northern sections of the map. So that's the third Nexus going down. The fourth Nexus will not be far behind. And what was shaping up like a pretty neat game for Hero, well, Clem just shuts it down with ease. How many SCVs did he lose in total? 8 in this game. Yeah, that was very acceptable. And now we continue playing Macro instead. Alright, well, Hero has decided to go for now a new expansion at the bottom of the map. But obviously the Terran's economy at this point is going to be much, much nicer. Yeah, we had a weird dip in there because the SCVs were pulled, because of the worker advantage. Looks like we also had a disruptor hit here on our, I think, 2 Marines. Clem is not going to let his foot off the gas, though. I think we're going to continue pushing. We're going to try and see if we can potentially win the game. There's that Oracle again. Sentries, Disruptor, Colossus. I mean, this is still a very powerful unit composition. And let's be real, Hero tends to shine in these very strange clutch situations. He's got very, very promising macro and micro in these sort of spots. But first off, he has to make it difficult for himself. That's a bit of a theme in Hero's gameplay. Make game hard, step 1. Somehow win, step 2. You would imagine the game is easier when you don't make it very difficult on yourself first. But it's why we love watching Hero. Well, okay. Clem decides to retreat and be quite nice about it all. A little surprised by it. He just knows that this is one of those army compositions that's difficult to break, especially when you don't have any sort of like ghosts or anything along those lines yet. Yeah, these are Marines, Marauders, Medevacs, Mines, and a single siege tank, but yeah, it doesn't really have any real pushing potential, right? Like pushing into a choke point like this, through a choke rudder into like a full base, potentially there's shield batteries, there's sentries. It's not easy to really make that call. Now we do have a big drop headed towards the main base, and obviously if this is going to distract a significant portion of the Protoss army, then maybe the rest of the Terran push can also be completed towards that newly acquired Nexus. Aggressive link forward though, Hero's gonna start popping a couple of those Medevacs. Main army here still deflected just fine with the Colossi, and again, Hero is digging, but he is finding value. Just why put yourself in this spot in the first place? I don't think that Oracle was worth it. No. Alright. Well, hey, he survives. There's finally the Ghost Academy. This is exactly what Clem was trying to avoid. Clem now forced to go into 2-2, forced to go into the Ghost Academy. That does mean that Hero has once more bought a little bit of time, and supply-wise, he is climbing back up. Viking production has also begun for Clem. I don't think Hero can go across. I like the idea, maybe you can do a Zealot run by or something, but I find it very risky. Good spotting over here by the Protoss player. Clem will now still commit to the drop, it seems, but it does also mean that these Zealots, okay. Yeah, he doesn't want to send in all of the Zealots. Sacrificing 1,000+ minerals would be a bit much. Clem with some clever army movement. Trying to snatch a few of those units too. Spots here, though, that the Protoss army is indeed moving towards the top right of the map, and that means that the main is going to be mostly unprotected. A scan to just confirm it as well. Clem is going to hit now right over here, and a recall from Hero. That's a dangerous play, but he does get the majority of the units in the right spot. Nexus falls, though, but this is going to cost the Terran player quite a lot, although he escapes with most of the Medevacs. The half of the Terran army, though, that wasn't present in the main base has now been pushed straight through the center of the map once more. Those Zealots from earlier that were set up for a run-by, well, they're trying to see if they can help out with the base defense, but they ultimately still go down. Medevac drop is going to continue onwards as well at that newly acquired base in the top right. That Nexus will go down, the third over here, or I guess now it's about the 7th. That one will ultimately stay alive for the time being, but here's all of the Terran units now grouping together. Good dodging of all of the Novas. Ultimately, there's way too much here for Clem. But, yeah, it's mostly Medevacs. It's mostly Medevacs. He has a lot of army. Supply-wise, he's far ahead. But he doesn't really want to take any chances. He's got more Medevacs here than he's got attacking units. So, Hero once more escapes. Just barely. But this is looking very dire for him right now. Ultimately, though, look at the traits here, right? The fact that, like, we get these even traits here with Protoss despite having significantly less supply. It obviously means that Hero's getting value out of his troops. Now the EMPs are here, though. Yeah, those Ghosts are going to be amazing against these Zealot forces. EMP will effectively reduce the entire army by like 50% in HP. As long as you continue fighting, you don't give him any chance to regenerate. Should be more than okay. Good kiting here by Clem. He's still macroing 2 on the back of this, of course. I'm honestly impressed with the fact that Hero's still in this game, though. I don't think he will be for much longer. But the fact that Hero is still making a game out of this, after, let's call it the incident, it speaks volumes of the man's skill. Next up, we find ourselves on Amygdala. Now, this time around, apparently it's Clem going across the map early and building some shenanigans. I would say most of the time in, well, these two playing against each other, it is certainly HerO holding the cards in the early game. Apparently Clem is done. He's now leading the series 1-0. He's got a bit of wiggle room. May as well go ahead and test the waters. And you know what? If HerO once more decides to open up with a sentry first, which is something he's been doing an awful lot, he's very likely to pay the price. This could be a really quick match just by Clem building one of his production structures on the other side of the map. HerO doesn't really scout very much either. Now, he's checking right now to see if it's safe to build a Nexus, but maybe he's going to send the probe in. Now, that's an awkward angle for the... That angle for the SCV is a bit weird. I don't know if HerO saw it, but it's not really supposed to be touching this, you know, that side of the wall. I don't think HerO noticed it, though. It must have been just barely outside of vision range. Yeah, now HerO is not going to be aware of this situation at all. Now, what exactly are we doing? It is indeed going to be what looks like a sentry first build. No, it's not. He's been doing it every single time. Now he decides to go for the Adept. Either that or he did notice it, and he decided to cancel that idea and just go into the Adept instead. Fair enough. Ooh, saved the probe right there by popping it into the assimilator. That's kind of cute. Very good shuffling here, actually, by HerO. Lost nothing. Yeah, he's going to be able to get the Sentry, or the Reaper, rather, too. That was excellent work. For some reason, the Reaper is not showing up in the resources or the units lost here, but... that was cute. So, the probe that was being targeted there, he popped it into the gas geyser. It's one of those things that only works out, like, 1 in 10 times when you give it a shot. But when it works, you look pretty brilliant. Okay, so, Twilight Council this time around. And it should just be the good old Blink upgrade as the very first research for HerO. In the meantime, Clem is gonna have to make the flight of shame all the way back home. It's a little bit embarrassing for this pilot of the barracks. Don't think about him too much, but this is awkward, dude. He's been sent out into the battlefield and now he made 1 Reaper. Comes all the way back home. That's not a very good return on investment. Yeah, maybe actually... did we make a 2nd Reaper? I guess we did. Alright, anyway. It doesn't really matter that much here for Clem. But it does mean, though, that his Stimpak is going to be delayed. Any sort of follow-up, you kind of need to be building tech labs and add-ons and all that with this barracks. And obviously, that's the main thing that you lose here. He should be okay. He should be able to take the low ground expansion eventually, and then likely also go into a 3rd. But this is certainly allowing HerO to do whatever he likes. Well, what he likes to do is make Blinky Boys. I wonder if he's going to be able to punish his opponent at all. How many gateways do we make? For now, it's just a Robo and 2 gateways in total. Cyclone is here. Cyclone is, of course, annoying to deal with. Oh, gets another or gets another Reaper here. Shield battery being used very effectively. I've now been calling Reapers, Oracles, and Sentries. That's incredible. It's interesting to me. I've been casting this game for like a decade now, and I still don't know unit names. No, for some reason this is difficult for me. Reaper is a Cyclone, is a Sentry, is an Oracle. Ah, very impressive stuff, Lowko. Well done. One day, I'll be able to recognize all the units. You know, if we ever switched over, I've wondered about this, right? Say at some point another RTS pops up and all of the pro gamers switch over and the whole RTS world is happy, right? Like imagine, you know, we all like to fantasize sometimes, right? Anyways, there's a very good chance that I will accidentally be calling units in a hypothetical future game. I will probably be calling all of those units StarCraft units instead. I will probably get it completely derped out. Like a unit that walks around with a gun in like a spacesuit will always be a Marine to me. A tank over here that can be used as a siege weapon, that will always be a siege tank. If the game features some sort of unit that has swords for an arm, that will always be a zealot in my mind. Anyway, for now, everything here is quite normal. I'm a little surprised HerO didn't try to go for any real aggression after finishing up the Blink Stalkers. Generally, he loves to go for... well, 4 gate. Well, like, if you make a mistake as Terran in the early game, right? Or you go for an opener that doesn't really work, 4 gate Blink Stalker hits like a truck. And HerO is a big fan of it. This wasn't by any stretch like the worst early game for Clem. but usually the margin for error is absolutely tiny. So if that's the case, I've got a feeling that you could probably test the waters, at least with some 4-gate aggression. Anyways, Hero decided to just go for a quick third base here off of 2 gateways, which I guess is a bit of a greedy start. We see this quite commonly, but he's decided to take that gamble here instead. So take a super fast third rather than risk it on the other side of the map with 4 gateways. Take a very fast third base and tech straight up. And only just now is when we have those additional gateways finishing up. Usually this would be a bit risky, but like I said, the stim pack, the combat shields, the +1 infantry, all of it has been delayed because that barracks was on the other side of the map and it had to fly all the way back home before those researches could begin. So Hero decides to just cruise ahead and build a 4th Nexus before the 3rd for the Terran is even built. Yeah, it is just now starting up. That is risky and very, very greedy. And I wonder whether or not Clem is going to be able to do anything about it. So usually what Hero does, whenever he pulls ahead in the early game because the opponent decided to take a risk, he will just immediately hit you in the face, right? Like that's sort of his approach. Tries to, oh, he's trying to intercept, he gets the Stalkers! Ooh, that was a sexy move and a half right there by Clem. Woo! Ay, ay, ay. Sorry, I'm just going to back up. I'm just going to back up for a second. So what he does over here is load up a few of the medevacs, drop them over here, anticipating the retreat path of those Stalkers. And he gets them because of it. Well, except for one of them. That was very cute. Anyways, I was going to say, Hero's playing a very intelligent game. But maybe Hero is still getting outsmarted by Clem. This is something Hero does all the time. He parks his Stalkers on the other side of the map. That is a very nice move by the French Terran player. Now, does he have enough? 5 Stalkers down? Is there enough for Hero to still hold on against this push? I think with 5 Stalkers, yes. Probably. Without those 5 Stalkers, though, is this still holdable? I think the 4th Nexus will be more than likely to go down. Now, I say that a 2nd Colossus is just about to pop out of the Robo. Ranged will be done as well in just a few minutes. Or minutes. A couple seconds here. Siege tank, though, within a range now of the building itself. Tentacle rocks are down because we're at the 8-minute mark. Hero's gonna have to push. Yeah, he needs to wait, though. 5 seconds on extended thermal lens. He's getting a little over-eager. He didn't want to lose the Nexus in the meantime, but this is now so awkward. Man, imagine a handful more Stalkers here. It honestly would be an entirely different situation. Okay, apparently we're just gonna shove in. Let's see. Still enough. Yeah, still enough. Whew. Okay. That was dicey. A little unnecessary. But Clem still got deflected. Now, I think the original game plan was to defend that attack and then go immediately into the counter. But because he lost those Stalkers, he doesn't really have the probability. At least that's, I'm assuming, why we made the Prism here. Now suddenly, yeah, we have to be playing a lot more of a macro-focused game. So, 2nd Robo facility coming up. Maybe a Zealot run by towards the 3rd or the main base could still be a possibility. I wouldn't mind seeing him test the waters, but there's really not a lot of bulk in this Protoss army. And he doesn't really know exactly if there's any medevacs heading out across. Raven's still hanging out, by the way, just casually getting a few kills every once in a while. 7 in total here already. Still full HP. Okay, so what do you do here as Clem? Well, I think your best bet is to continue playing the macro match. Try to see if maybe you can slowly crawl your way back into it. And honestly, nobody does it better than Clem. Your execution is going to have to be extremely clean. Now that the 3rd base is up, we can go into the Ghost Academy. We can go into that armory, the 2nd NG bay, and research the 2-2 upgrades here very soon. Hero decides to just continue playing the macro match as well. I don't think either player really was anticipating playing a game like this. At least neither of them really were setting up to play a big macro game, but because of the circumstances, they're now forced into it. Both of them trying to sneak out some additional workers, get new bases going, and gobble up as much of the map as possible. Yeah, I think Hero is probably not going to strike until the 4th base of Terran will actually be acquired, and Clem is only just now building it. 2-2 researching. +3/+2 here as well for Hero, so he is certainly still ahead. So he's ahead in upgrades, he's ahead in army, he's ahead in economy. He's still ahead in every department, but it's only maybe like 10% or so across the board. Still, though, it's making it difficult for Clem to really make any real decisions, right? So one of the things, for example, that you love to do as Terran is eventually think about a transition towards Cyclones. At this point, well, Clem can barely afford barracks 6, 7, and 8. Something like Cyclones is a very long way off at this point. You need to go for a 2nd starport, you need to go for the fusion core, you need to get the researches going. He did decide to go for the +1 air attacks, which is still useful when you have Vikings against the Colossi. Obviously still useful too later on when you're going up against, well, maybe a full ground toss, and you do want to go into Liberators, but it's a dangerous choice. And in the meantime, Hero is still shopping for the luxury upgrades, right? So this is Gravitic Drive, that's the speed upgrade for the Warp Prism. And in the meantime, he's also now finally pushing across the map. Bit of a strange timing, honestly. I guess he's arrived at a maxed out state, so he's like, well, I guess I may as well go ahead and test the waters. You know what? He may have found a pretty good opportunity. Just balling all of his units together. This choke point here, though, is obviously really solid for Clem. Disruptor's trying to prevent that from happening. Stalkers underneath the Vikings as well to try and prevent them from killing the Colossi. Yeah, and the Terran army is starting to look pretty meager. I would love to see a couple Zealots split off from this army to go after the SCVs up at the 3rd, but apparently Clem is, yeah, forced to now deal with this entire army because Hero feels like he can go ahead and win this game right here, right now, and he may indeed be right. That was a very random timing to be attacking it. Yep, but ultimately there's just not enough Terran. So all of that previous game for Clem could be traced back to that Reaper cheese not working out all too well for him. Right? Like, you fall behind by a very small margin. But I mean, again, picture that previous game if you don't get all of those Stalkers donated. Right? Like, imagine he would not have killed those Stalkers when they were trying to retreat. That game would have been a landslide victory for Hero. So it's one of the reasons why we don't really see that sort of shenanigans too often in the early game. When it doesn't work, you fall pretty far behind. Now, obviously, in this instance, when Clem doesn't build a barracks on the other side of the map, it is once more a sentry first. I wonder if maybe Clem gave it away, though, with the pathing of that SCV. The SCV that built the barracks in the previous game. I think Hero may have picked up on the angle there. And he just realized, you know what, we're not going to go for the sentry first this time around. It's much safer if I just go into an Adept instead. Ooh. The whiffed force field. Okay. Reaper managed to escape for now. Now, this is King's Cove. A very large map. A lot of macro potential. There's still obviously all-ins as well that you can go for, but the rush distance on this map is quite long. And it's got a lot of easy expansions to acquire as well. So let's see. Another hallucinated Phoenix. Man, these hallucinated Phoenix builds are actually insane. By far the strongest thing that came out of that energy recharge change that we've recently had. Just so powerful. I feel like Protoss players only just now are really starting to experience the real advantage, because Terran just gets spotted with whatever they want to do. So at this point, Hero will already know what it is that Clem will more than likely go for here. Protoss has never had the opportunity to scout in the early game. Like, not after the probe scout and not until, like, the Adept goes across the map, right? Like, there's always a lot of darkness. This is by far the most reliable way to scout early on, and it's made all of these pushes just a little bit weaker. So, robot facility coming up. Still, obviously, it's still got real pushing potential. But already, look, the Stalkers are waiting. Blink is just seconds away from finishing up. Cloak upgrade as well on the back of this should be an easy, yeah, thing to get done. And this is exactly what a lot of Terran players are complaining about right now. Now, they are Terran players, so they complain. They're StarCraft players, so they complain twice as much. Every StarCraft player is always complaining, but Terrans are finding difficulty in the early game these days because of this sort of thing. Like, everything that you can go for gets scanned and scouted, and you just kind of, you know, get denied in whatever direction you want to go. We still see Terrans winning, though, a lot of the time, but you can kind of tell some of the frustrations, because Clem has, well, just not achieved anything in the early game. The times of dropping a couple of Widow Mines in your opponent's mineral line are in the past. Maybe you can drop them, and maybe occasionally it will still work right now too. But we're doing a lot more of this, you know, like just park them in the middle of the map and cross your fingers and hope that the opponent accidentally flies over it. It can happen. Observer is nearby. Yep. Hallucinated observers don't exist. Imagine that, you could hallucinate an observer. And this is also not worth it. Like, a cloak upgrade, all of that time investment, and the Banshee for 4 workers? I mean, that was about the best case scenario. Maybe the second Banshee can be a little bit more successful. Problem is, when there's smoke, there's fire. When you see there's one Banshee, there's always a second. You never go for cloak upgrade and just a single Banshee. I mean, you can, obviously, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. In the time that it takes to research cloak, you can exactly build 2 Banshees. I mean, you don't have to. Maybe it's better to go for one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when you're in these kind of scenarios, but it's just so obvious. Hero waiting as well now with the Stalkers, trying to see if he can bait it away. And boom. Perfect number of Stalkers there. All of them deal 2 shots, and that's it. And now we're once more in that little lull in this matchup. So we've got Stimpack, Combat Shields, +1, all of it coming up. Well, maybe Hero is thinking about being a little bit more feisty here. Yeah. He's had his own Nexus up for a while already. Widowmine drop, though? This one, I think, is unscouted. Clem's gonna leave one over at the 4th. Just burrow one right over here. Oh. Great reaction there. Perfect micro. Just micro, guys. If you struggle against this sort of thing, just micro. Have you considered just microing your units? Hallucinated Colossus is back again. After game number 1 is ended, we're bringing it in once more to get some of that high ground vision and just to have a really large target for the Terran player to hit. Okay, well, you know what? That force field on the ramp is phenomenal. GG, wow. Hero just crushed Clem. Assuming there's no balance patches coming in the near future, and assuming we're going to continue playing on the current map pool, I believe we are... Well, we have been already for a little while, but we are certainly at the beginning of what in my mind is going to be Protoss domination. I think PvT is looking really good for Protoss. Protoss versus Zerg is looking even better than Protoss versus Terran. Let's see if any of the Protoss players can really strike, though, while the iron is hot. Because everybody's got a plan until Serral signs up for a tournament. And that's really been a theme for so long now in StarCraft. Where, like, everybody is struggling, and then Serral's like, haha, make muta. And then, you know, everybody dies. But I do believe that this is by far the best chance that Protoss has had in, like, the last... I was gonna say 5 years, but honestly, I think it's been longer than that. Protoss has been underperforming across the board for many, many, many years now. And I think there's a couple of different reasons as to why. But there's no doubt in my mind right now that Protoss is currently at a better spot than they have been in a very long time. So maybe some of the big tournaments can be won by Protoss again. Although, like I said, those will also be the ones that Serral is playing in, and everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Blink, coming up once more for Hero. Yeah, the previous game was utter domination. I really think, though, for Hero to be that one, like for Hero to be that player, the one that dominates the competition, I mean, he's been strong for a very long time, and he's won his fair share of tournaments. But Hero has so many clumsy little mistakes. Like the Misrelite Stalker in the first game. The all-army hotkeying that we just see all of the time, where he pulls his units away from watchtowers and observers that go all the way back home. Very high highs. pretty low lows as well, which is just a bit unfortunate. Little, yeah, unnecessary in my mind. They're quite, I don't want to call them beginner mistakes, but he has some of those moments, you know, where it just seems a bit silly. Matter of fact, here taking a lot of damage. Hero not quite having enough units though. Ooh, same for the units right over here. I was just talking about it in the previous game, but we don't get... Oh my god, that's just game over. 16 probes? I mean, it might be difficult to deal damage these days, but Clem still gets the job done. He did lose the medevac in the main base just now, but 16 probes? That is way too much. This is now going to trigger what will likely be an all-in by Hero, but... And that's kind of what I'm talking about, you know? Like, maybe this is not the best example, but there's this, like, rigidity that we miss in Hero's gameplay. Like, Hero's highs are, like, 120%, right? Where you're looking at it and you're like, you're not even sure what you can do about it. But then, in other instances, like, now he's gonna power up. Now that he's behind, he's angry, he's gonna start microing like a god. But his baseline is reasonably sloppy, and I think it's unnecessary. Look at the bait. Love the bait there. For lovely work. He actually baited out that Raven on purpose. Can we still bring this home, Hero? I mean, honestly, if any Protoss can clutch it, I think it'd be you. Good targeting here on that bunker. Good micro here on the Stalkers. There is a Viking up in the air, though, and that's going to make this a little bit tricky. Siege tank, in the meantime, occupied with that one Adept. Yeah, 16 probes is just not something he can really return from. Nah. Maybe, but probably not. Look at him just casually picking up the low HP Stalkers. Sometimes I wonder if Hero in the early game is like, you know, maybe he's got like a second monitor and he's kind of looking at his Discord notifications or something, and he's like hanging out with somebody in voice chatter. Like, I'm kind of getting that vibe, you know? Where he's like, hold up, bro, I actually got to focus now. And then he starts focusing and he plays like a god. Because he plays this only, like, at offline events or, like, the biggest tournaments historically. Hero never had these little derpy moments. It's mostly for the online stuff now, and I hope it's not really a theme. Because it's just a little silly. Then again, in my mind, max specs, right? I mean, I've fanboyed over max specs a lot. Here we go. Aggressive blink forward. Coming in. Missed target, though, on the second shot there, and the siege tank survives. The shoveling here looks painful for Clem, but this is all very, very okay for the French Terran player. Yep. Excellent aggression early on. It's going to settle the game immediately. Well, that means it all comes down to this. Our final game for today, it takes place on a ley lines. And I've got full faith in Hero being able to bring it back. I actually feel like he's been the more dominant player throughout this series so far. Just sloppy mistakes. That's what I was trying to say in the end of the previous match. I think Max Specs is just a lot more rigid. I think Max Specs' baseline is as close to 100% effectiveness as you can be. Every single play that Max Specs makes in general is very close to a perfect game. Hero has low lows, but very high highs. And the highs are much better than those of Max Specs, so... it's a difficult toss-up. A toss-up? Look, you're so funny. I'm gonna hit the like button. Well, accidentally funny. Accidental puns. All right, let's see. What are we gonna change this time around, Mr. Clem? I feel like Clem is not, like, other than the previous game, he's not really had his groove going very much. Yeah, he's been playing well. He's got some wins. But, for example, in that game where he built the barracks on the other side of the map, he just kind of, yeah, let control of the game, like, go very early on, right? So I would like to see that rock-solid control early on. Follow-up aggression. I mean, it's more difficult now with this patch. But Clem, generally speaking, tends to outplay his opponents. And, well, the previous game was certainly a great example of that. Don't get a Stalker stuck, please. I'm gonna cry. If you get a Stalker, don't get that Zealot stuck there either. Okay, please. Alright. We canceled the Zealot. That means we're gonna go into a Sentry again. Let's see. Nothing really that Clem can do about it this time around. factory coming up right now inside of the main base. This has been a double gas opening, meaning that Terran has delayed their natural expansion for a bit. In favor of more tech. So there we go. Command center indeed building now. And obviously this is a quick factory. More than likely to go into a quick cyclone. Sentry once more getting bullied. Stalker though will be coming up. Yeah. It's an interesting fight between the Sentry and the Stalker. Because we all know, or the Sentry and the Reaper rather. Because, see, that's one of the names I hadn't given the Reaper yet today. Ay. Cyclone, Stalker, Oracle. The Reaper has many names today. Anyways, it's a funny little fight between the Sentry and the Reaper. You don't really want to take too much base damage, like too much hull damage on the Sentry. And obviously you don't want to lose the Reaper itself either. And you know that depending on the amount of chrono boost, the Gateway is going to spawn its second unit soon. You do want to deal some hull damage though to it. And so far this has not been bad. Force field maybe? I think a force field would have been appropriate there. Better than losing it, that's for certain. Oh, Hero accidentally targeting one of his own probes. This is going to be a Phoenix follow-up. And obviously now Clem sees this coming in as well from a mile away. Immediately we have a tech lab here onto that factory so we can go into the Cyclone production. And when you see that it's going to be a Phoenix follow-up nice and early, well, you can start working on counters as well. The worst is when the Phoenixes come and you don't expect them at all. It's quite tricky for Terran to scout at this phase in the game. I mean, I say that sometimes, and I see some people commenting like, why don't they just scan? Technically, you can scan, okay? It's the perfect vision. You can literally get rid of the fog of war temporarily, right? It's incredibly powerful, but also, it's very costly. Every scan you do could have been a mule, and every mule, well, mines for a substantial amount of resources. That's how the game is balanced, ultimately. Probe is here, by the way, to sacrifice itself against the Widowmine. Widowmine was already hiding in the corner. Ooh, that Phoenix. Phoenix is gonna die. Yeah. Good control here so far by Clem. Really squeezing a lot of juice out of his Terran units. Hero not so much getting the value that he's aiming for. Yeah, now that Widowmine is back again. I love the movement here by Clem, dude. The fact that he had that Widowmine over there, saw the probe, decided to move the Widowmine away. Then after the probe died, he brought the Widowmine back in, knowing that there was not going to be a second probe out onto the map. Good attempts by Hero. It's a bluff into a bluff into a bluff. Stimpack, combat shields, and guess what? +1 infantry attacks. Everything's coming. Robobay coming up right now for Hero. He'll be getting the Colossus out in just a moment. And we'll likely see that transition here. Yep, towards more of the same. So now we're once more in that lull of TVP, where for both players, it's better just to sit back. Now, losing the one Phoenix is a little bit rough. Not the end of the world by any stretch, but if you're making Phoenixes, they really benefit from having more Phoenixes. There is an upper limit, I suppose, but yeah, you kind of have to awkwardly continue building them now, but you've already lost one. And they're not particularly cheap. Okay. There is a chance here for Clem to go across the map if he wants to. Now that Stimpack is near finishing. He's been building up the barracks count already. And we're up to a decent amount. 5 of them here in total. No third command center just yet. So let's see where we take this game now. Yeah. Here we go. All of the Terran units get balled together. Ooh, Medevac escapes. Not within vision right there of those Phoenixes. I don't know if Hero picked up on the fact that maybe there's not quite enough Medevacs here. Either way, the Phoenixes could easily intercept this. It looks like the Medevac is going to be able to slip away, although there is an observer sieged up on the left side. And that's going to immediately prompt those Phoenixes to now return home. Maybe, though, Clem attacking the third base and dropping the natural expansion can still get work done. Clem probably knows that he's been spotted at this point. No blink available yet. We're actually going to go charge first. Only half of the medevac actually was unloaded there, which is curious. In the meantime, the Colossi are going in. Ranged is not yet done for them yet either, but this was good defense. We have some leftover Terran units now in the main base, but it looks to me like it's going to be a one-way trip. In the meantime, the rest of that medevac is now unloaded. Can Clem somehow, some way justify this attack and still get some value out of it? 5 probes for now. Maybe this army here at the front. I mean, he's in 3 different angles all at once. Very minimum amounts of losses, though, so far on the side of Hero, but losing the Nexus would be big, and that's exactly what Clem gets. This was looking pretty dire for the Terran, but now suddenly, oof, he got a good bit of value. Losing the Colossus there would have been the cherry on top. A couple Marines still going to town in the main base, and this is now going from bad to worse for Hero. He was originally looking like he was gonna get away with this with like maybe 5 or 6 workers lost and all of the Terran units gone. I really like that Clem only unloaded half the medevac in the natural expansion. It made Hero believe that he had dealt with all of those Marines, and then when that came back, suddenly the APM was really stressed. Good splitties over here, gets that low HP Colossus. Yeah, Clem is so fast. Just suddenly he can like power it up, you know? Suddenly he can be in 3 different spots at the same time and somehow, some way stutter step all of the different locations while macroing at home. He makes it look very smooth, but you have to be reading the situation. There's no way, Hero. No way, dude. Oh my god, Hero wants to chase this down. It's so risky, but he also knows that he can't really play the macro game, so he needs to continue onwards. He's rebuilt that 3rd Nexus now, by the way. I'm talking as if Hero is already out of this game, and this is not looking great for him, but he still has really powerful units, and those Terran troops are overstimmed. There's not a lot of energy inside of the medevacs, so if Hero keeps up this pressure, there's a good chance that the Marines and the Marauders are not going to be able to go back to full HP. There's now also a Prism, so if anybody was going to be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat, it would be Hero right here, right now. SCVs pulled away from their mineral line as well, just to soak up a bit of damage. Marauders run even lower. Vikings up in the air trying to see if potentially they can chip away at some of those very important, well, robo facility units. Zealot charge in once more. There is a Widow Mine here. Yeah, there's actually quite a few Widow Mines all over the place. Good arc here on all of those Marauders as well. Hero's still smelling blood, though. He knows that he needs to get something done soon. Colossus gets picked up right before the Viking connects. Oh my god, a 2nd time around, the 3rd time around. Colossi still live. Oh, okay, that's the first one going down. Prism is the absolute necessity here for Hero, and this is starting to fizzle out. For a moment there, it looked winnable. For a moment, it looked winnable for the Protoss. But Clem, with some phenomenal micro, is going to be able to get the job done here. I don't believe there is enough for Protoss to continue fighting. He's now lost the 2 Colossi, he's lost the Prism. Reinforcing Colossus is showing up as well. If he could sustain that fight for a little bit longer, maybe another 30 seconds or so, he probably would have been able to group the 3rd Colossus with the rest of the army, and this game may have looked very different. But ultimately, there can only be one winner, and Clem, he played a phenomenal series. GG.